The hotel industry needs to stop it. It's a major contributor for harboring people because you bring people in the country. Where do they stay? A lot of them stay in hotels. And his point was you had to train every staff member across the nation to do it. And that's not cheap, right? There's a productivity loss. There's a cost and things like that. Very, very different from the positioning previously of the agent. I go, oh, and his rationale was because it's the right thing to do. And it was like, I had not heard something like that from the agent. It was always like, oh, the hotel industry is being victimized by these horrible, it's like, come on, just stop it. Yeah, they should have been fighting Airbnb the entire time on affordable housing, on Airbnb killing affordable housing. That's something they can get some action behind. But anyway, so yeah, it's a great conference. And
well, let's tackle a little bit of the Airbnb stuff that did make the news this week that you did throw in about their slightly crushing defeat in Jersey and a few other variations.
It's a logical defeat, right? I mean, it needs to be regulated, and it needs to be regulated logically. And I didn't get deep into the New Jersey thing, and my guess is it's not perfect. But you've got to put some rails around these things.
Well, it was the very compelling argument I put forth to Tim on last week's show when he was sharing how he was concerned about how to vote for this. And I explained to him that you have to start somewhere. And this was a good start. And then you have to work on it because it has to be a very nuanced law.
Yeah. And politics, at least these days, isn't big into nuance.
No, but I am taking full credit for helping put this law through. I think if we didn't have as much of a viewership as we do, and people didn't hang on every word, I think Airbnb would have won.
Stephanie, just so you know, Ed is the master political puppeteer for many states.
Somebody's got to do it.
Not just the local state of Florida, but he has obviously control over New Jersey and at the local level as well.
I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Exactly.
I'm over here and playing the political climate that is the Pacific Northwest and Seattle. It's a whole nother ballgame.
I can only imagine.
I grew up in Seattle. Yeah, it's they're doing some interesting stuff up there.
So we do have to follow back, and next week when Tim's back on, we do have to ask him how he voted, because
that's true.
He may have tipped the scales for that landslide.
He probably did. Well, they heard maybe that he was leaning that direction to vote, for it, and boom, there you go.
Well, they heard on Tim Peters' blog,
exactly,
which is most of the internet.
Exactly. So anyway, for people who don't know what I'm talking about, Airbnb lost in Jersey City. They were absorbing a huge portion of I shouldn't say a huge portion, ever-growing portion of the rental availability there, which is forcing up prices and making it already difficult, a difficult housing environment even worse. And they're limiting it, which every jurisdiction probably should have some form of limit in terms of numbers of days or multiple ownership or having these set up as are they hotels, sort of thing. As a distributed hotel with individual units spread across multiple buildings.
I think the first time I saw this as an impact, a substantive impact, was when visiting Hawaii, where it was the adamancy of the fact that there was not enough housing because people that would normally rent annually to people locally at a more affordable rate were not. And instead just doing the Airbnb rentals for optimization of revenue for the place, and which effectively left very few places for people to rent. And if there were available, the escalation of price was substantive. You look at that, and then Airbnb's other issues where they've hit the news twice now, both in a bad way. That story that we covered about the lawyer in Chicago that dug up the fact that there was this effectively a bait and switch kind of mentality with, you rent a spot, then they jump you off of it the day, hours before you're supposed to arrive, put you into a less than
horrible.
Yeah, and then kick you out from that, so that you still have to pay the fees and everything, and don't get anything for it. That blew up into national news.
Well, and
then,
the only reason it did, though, was because they screwed over a Vice reporter, right?
Right.
So, or not for the publication Vice, not,
right,
but
right.
but anyway,
And they took the time to
came
research.
in
They took
and
the
they
time to
started
realize it
doing,
was.
yeah, they're
I mean,
excellent journalists, and
let's
they
not
did
forget,
some research.
that's how Cambridge Analytica fell.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Journalism is a powerful,
Yeah.
a powerful tool for democracy.
And then the other was the recentness of the San Francisco, the temporary house rental that people died at,
Mhm.
you know, because it was not thoroughly researched. And their Airbnbs were saying, "Oh, we're going to do a strike team to check these things out." Wow.
Well, no, they have 7 million. Yeah, and Chip's comment to me when I was talking to him after the presentation was, "Yeah, good luck with that."
Yeah. How is that actually going to work? What is a strike team? And
no, they are there, but they are smart people. So what happens? We've said this multiple times. What do you do when you have a crisis? Number one, you acknowledge that you have a problem. Number two is you say, here's what we're going to do about it. Number three is like you overcompensate, and that's what they're doing. I mean, they learned that early on when these things were happening, and they started putting in, hey, there should be some insurance coverage, and hey, you know what? We can make money if we start selling insurance. What do you know? This can work out. And they're looking at, how do we make this? Yes, this is a very, very difficult.
And here's what's going to happen
with individuals.
They're going to introduce a premium style of listing that requires a verified walkthrough, full verification of all people involved in it, and that's going to cost $1,000. But it'll be spread out. Or you could spread it out monthly. But at monthly, it's going to cost $100 a month.
That's right. And if you do that, it's also recurring. It's a recurring revenue stream for the business, which is huge because you're going to want your certification updated annually, quarterly, daily. I don't know. Right. They'll figure out what's the optimized level, probably annually.
Yep.
And so
that task force, what they're figuring out right now is how efficiently can they do it. And then they want to add 100 to 150% margin on top of that cost. And that is what it will cost to have a verified listing on Airbnb.
Right. And it's genius. And they will be and it will make their product better, because certainly when they had Superhost flagged, those guys, I don't know exactly what the premium is, but it's probably at least 20%. Right. Yep. So if you can increase your ADR as a hotel by having a check mark of being approved by, I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So, so they're providing, their whole thing is, how do you align the incentives for the hosts to align with what the guests need, which align with what Airbnb needs as a business. It's a very, very smart business, is what I've always said. And yes, they need to pay local taxes. Yes, they need to make sure these security things are happening, and they're figuring out how to do this problem. It's hard on the local taxes, though, to get that ROI. That's why they've been fighting that, I think, for so long.
They can't make money off of it.
Yeah, shame on the jurisdictions for not stepping up. And it's the same as the jurisdictions who decided, oh, well, we shouldn't.
Actually, that's a smart thing,
we shouldn't
Robert.
tax OTA merchant.
We should go to your local government that's struggling with this and suggest to them that they give a revenue share back to Airbnb for automatically collecting and paying it.
Well, this segues into my little initiative for HTNG, which is to create a registry of all hospitality entities, right? So we're working on.
I've never heard of that. You've never mentioned it.
Yeah, I know. I mention on the show periodically, but we're doing some very, very good work in the work group. And that's what we're planning on doing, is making sure that there's a registry where you have these lists. Now, we aren't doing it to verify that it's a hotel, but it's also so that entity can then link back to its management company, to its brand. And a lot of it's operational, right? So when you change flags, all of a sudden everything changes, things crater, and it's horrible. Their continuity of reservations get messed up and things like that. So
that's what the flags want. That's called a walled. It's called a walled garden.
Exactly. So this provides continuity. So you have this enduring ID, and so then on the distribution side, you can have better continuity, and then on the tech stack side, you can then start better developing your service bus and going, hey, you know what? We can bolt certain things onto this because we've got this registry that says it's us and we control it and we control the pointers. But also it applies very well to short-term rentals, and there may be implications in terms of taxation authorities and things like that being to validate, yes, that is a lodging facility or not, or how it behaves. So anyway,
something akin to like common language like schema.
Well, no, it's actually not really the schema. What we're doing is because I was involved on the Open Travel Alliance, so building the schema for now what's really facilitating all the e-commerce in the travel industry, right? But this is really just going to be the registry. And then you'll have the layer of, yes, you've got the open travel schema, you've got a variety of HTNG schemas, and we've built out the schema for controlling the registry, but it's really going to be, here's a platform, now industry go innovate on it, right? Because then once you get that, and all of a sudden the new startup can go, oh, I've got a good idea. I'm providing superior technology at lower cost. And hey, guess what? It's just technology. It's not being funded on a marketing basis as a percentage of revenue. It's just maybe per transaction or per whatever. You can get some pretty good efficiency from a business model perspective. And so it's going to be, here's the playing field, go innovate, right? So we're thinking it could be a game changer, and the big players can use it very effectively just as well as the little guys, right? So what the best way.
One of the articles, and this is actually a genuine question, and Stephanie, thank you for being with us today, because being so brand sensitive to what you do, I was a little confused by one of the articles that talked about that some hotel brands spoke out against being used as detentions, basically for immigration purposes.
Well, they didn't speak out. Oh no, that a bunch of them came out when all the ICE stuff was going out. There were reports that they're using hotels, and they're like, oh no, we're against that, right? We don't want to be involved.
Such a dumb response.
But that's where my question is coming out of this. Is like, I'm sorry, from being previously running hotels, I mean, when there was disasters and we had crews come in to do repairs for infrastructure and so forth, government agencies need, what other variation of accommodations exist in a market other than a hotel for a government to walk up and go, I had the FBI come to me and said, look, when I was on the Keys, like, we're going to be doing a lot of operations here in the Keys, and we need quiet rooms, stuff, and you're like, yeah, sure, what is it you need? It's business. And,
all they needed was endless amounts of towels and a garden hose.
Exactly.
And you're like,
you have
buckets and boards. All they ask for is buckets and boards.
Yeah, we need a large. Yeah, we also need a large trash can or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's something minor. No, but
here's why it's foolish. Is like, okay, so even when I was reading just initially the clickbaity title that CNN used, it made it sound like, oh, this is a horrible situation. These poor people having to stay at a hotel while they're detained. And, and even as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that would be better than anything the government would build. Like pretty much any hotel.
Cages or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Or just large warehouses. And I'm reading the article now just going, oh gosh, is CNN going to make this thing like a horrible thing? And then they finally at the end do this, like, it's actually kind of a nuanced issue. And, quite honestly, it's more humane to be in a hotel than it is other places. Well, and it's like, exactly. So
because your only other option is like dorm rooms at a university or something. Like that's the only other thing I can potentially say has that kind of volume.
Right. And I'm sorry, you're not going to get a university to be on board with that, because if you're talking about as liberal as you can get, like, no, just, political. That's like the housing of the super liberal who don't want anything to do with it, even at the expense of making whoever it's affecting have a more negative situation. And so first of all, any of the brands that spoke out on this, shame on you. You would have been better off saying nothing than immediately saying you condemn it, because you're potentially making it to where the government doesn't have a choice on what to do with these people.
Right. Well, and the challenge is that you've got this very polarized political environment, right? Which again is completely non-nuanced. And if you're an activist who's sitting and going, okay, we do not like these deportations, we don't like what's happening with this going on, where's a business entity that's related to this that can feel some pain, because we're getting into cancel culture issues, right? Like, we don't like what your politics are, so we're going to stop using you. Now, that's somewhat powerful. Although groups like Chick-fil-A have been,
they've been able to completely hang on, no problem. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They still have,
I guess they say my pleasure.
That's true.
And
true.
I whatever they're putting into the waffle fries.
Exactly.
Hey, if you ever doubt that Chick-fil-A is not in any problems, just be at DFW's airport. The busiest food place I ever see all the time is Chick-fil-A. There is always a line that wraps out of that place.
Dash of fentanyl or whatever's in there. Really keep them coming back. So,
it's not as good as Popeyes,
so speaking
over that one,
of them, they're very heavily present in Atlanta's Falcons Stadium. And I laughed instantly as I saw it, because they're all over the place. They invested a ton of money to be very present there. When are most NFL games played?
Sundays when they're not working.
On Sunday. Are they open on Sunday? They are? Oh, yeah. Really?
In the stadium, those ones are.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I can't believe that. So. I don't know. They're pretty hardcore on their Sundays.
I don't think they are.
The stadium stuff is open, because that was it. That was actually in the NFL news about that Chick-fil-A, even though being what they are for what they are, part of their deal was that any event, if there's sponsorship within the stadium, that they have to operate. So that they're probably not taking the truly devout and putting them in there. They're probably coordinating somehow internally, but yeah, so they have to be
the heathen application. You're a heathen.
The non-righteous are working that day, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, but it goes back to what we're talking about the polarities of stuff. It's like we're in this culture now.
No, Chick-fil-A and Mercedes-Benz Stadium closes.
No,
and it becomes
that's in the news.
No.
Are you doubling down, Lauren? Because Robert appears to have just
January 22nd, 2019.
They have to operate. This was in the news.
Post the link, Robert. Post the link.
You gotta see both of them.
Yeah.
They closed
I don't know about an article. Robert's good about pulling stuff out like that. I just know it was on the news.
They closed for the Super Bowl.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, that's wrong. Yep. That's wrong in a lot of ways.
What happens? They flip over the sign. And they make it something else. Fries up or something like that. Yeah.
Beef fala.
Yeah.
Eat more beef.
Yeah.
It's a burger joint.
Instead of cows walking around, they have chickens walking around eating more beef.
Yep.
Because there was in the news.
You gotta
about that. Like, because it was
a
big.
Fries
it was a big.
Doesn't serve chicken.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So they don't do it. They change the thing, and who knows? My guess is those operations are probably managed by Host or something like that, right? Because if you go to Chick-fil-A, it doesn't matter. Whatever airport you go to, most of the time, Host has the concession, and so that way, they can change it. So they're probably cooking. I don't know if they can use waffle fries. Maybe they're cooking different fries. I'm not sure what they do, but
they're doing curlicue fries.
Yeah, but anyway, no. So, hey, those guys, they stand by it, and it's privately held, and people can like it or not like it, but they are leaving 1/7 of the potential revenue on the table. And I would say, as a publicly traded company, they could not do that. So that would not be happening. So anyway, it's interesting.
Being the intelligent contributor to today's show, what other topics that Robert brought up that you find of interest, or do you have one of your own even?
Wait, can I state a complaint first? Because Stephanie was here. You guys started like right on time. There wasn't any sort of inane banter going on for like 10 or 15 minutes to go off with. And I mean, I came in and was like, oh my God, they're in a news topic in the first 45 seconds. I was stunned. So
Stephanie brings up.
Anyway, Stephanie, you're
I work on
ruining
the
the
banter,
show.
but I like to be efficient too.
Yeah,
You're
she's here.
ruining
It's
the
like, hey,
show.
business. Make it happen. Which other topic is kind of interest?
I guess the other one that I like was Neil Patel's article, and I follow him in LinkedIn and whatnot, but I wondered if some of his stuff if there's some paid placement there. Have you guys talked about voice search recently in the show in terms of?
A few times. Usually we kind of stomp on it a lot as being inefficient and yet to be where it's supposed to be and troublesome. But I mean, it has come up.
But we also give the caveat that the things you do to be good for voice search is just worth doing in general. Right? So yes, we poo-poo on voice because it's not what everyone says it's going to be. But we do ultimately say you should still just do it because there are other benefits non-voice related that would give you impact today.
Well, especially with the BERT rollout and stuff too, it's going that direction, that the autonomous AI engagement value proposition of being singular in your content value.
Well, the biggest thing, though, that he wrote this wrong because he started with that companies who rely on Google Analytics will get beat by their competition. Everyone in the hotel industry who's read that went, yes, I knew it was good. I never logged in. Woo!
I have no idea how this Adobe stuff works. Where is my login?
Very true.
I think but the bit about the voice search, everyone keeps quoting that Comscore statistic like everywhere, that every conference I go. And I don't know if you've heard the flip side or heard Rand Fishkin's. I'm a huge follower of Rand, and he has a whole different take on voice search and what he thinks it's just an additional, it's just an additional channel in addition to, just like mobile and whatnot. So it's I don't know, his take on it's pretty interesting. I think I have one of his kind of takes or presentations that kind of shows that I can post on here. But I feel like everyone's grasped onto that 50% of voice search and makes everybody panic. So.
Well, yeah, and again, those voice searches are, asking to navigate to different, places, or asking what the time is, and all the things that Google's optimizing to provide, answers to questions,
and
as opposed
just
to
general device management is a huge amount of the volume in there.
Right.
By the way, if you do, because I don't think all of you were invited by Stuart to contribute. I did put up something I found in devices that scares the crap out of me. How many of you have heard of Echo Frames?
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, the Amazon?
The Amazon Echo Frames.
Echo Frame? Yeah.
Yeah, that's frightening. It's absolutely frightening.
I think the Google or the Facebook one's even more scary.
Well, yeah. One thing not to buy for Christmas for your kids this year is a Facebook camera.
Yeah.
Do you have any hotels or know of any hotels that have an integrated voice search into their hotels or any of the devices?
Yeah.
Well, for Vollara, there's several folks out there who they're.
Yeah, it's a menagerie. I mean, I even tried trying to create toolkits for Amazon for the hotel to have its own voice guidance on it. Never got used. Was novelty at best.
What? No.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we
there's no way. This industry talks about it like almost as much as blockchain. And I mean, look at the impact blockchain has had.
When you have your VR goggles on with some blockchain, are you really in the groove?
Yeah.
I think this past week, Google killed Daydream completely, right? Daydream and Cardboard. They put the little cardboard box, which I'm sure Lauren was walking around some conference with it, duct taped to his head or something at some point. But
probably.
But they actually open sourced the Cardboard. It was basically your smartphone VR thing. That is now a well, I wouldn't say dead. It's certainly not something that they're digging into. So
very wounded, if not dead.
Yeah, maimed.
These are all fun things, but like, I mean, to answer your point, Steph, is like I went over and put together a concierge base. It was a simple core thing for food and directions for one hotel in Vancouver, and it was fun to do. And some guests thought it was cute because they could just on their phone. We didn't put any hardware into the rooms itself, but anybody that had it on their phone.
Come on, you could have easily spent a couple $100 per unit there, Lauren.
Oh, sure.
I mean, you had the missed opportunity there. So
yeah. And then listened into their conversations when they didn't want us to for privacy reasons. But the usage of it never really picked up. People thought it was cute, but they didn't really use it. They went back to their more pattern behaviors of looking up on their own phone and stuff like that. So it was a fun experience. It was a small place. I can't say that's indicative.
You're saying that we realize that bring your own device is a far better plan for the future than going all in on a single platform.
Who would have thunk?
Aria didn't think that out in Las Vegas.
If you walk, oh yeah, Aria, that stuff, that's just horrible.
And now that it's showing its age.
Yeah, exactly. You go, refresh, hardware refresh. That's exactly what they want. But if you see a device like that, I mean, I've walked into a couple rooms. First thing I do, I unplug it. Yeah, I don't know if there's a signal that they can that's coming through the data feed that goes, oh, the power's out. But that would be a very interesting tracking statistic, I would think. Yeah. So, anyway,
I think to Ed's point, actually, I'm sorry, is that the methodologies of getting to be that responded content on a voice activated engagement is the key element of value to it, because if you itemize yourself content wise to be that singular answer, be that the Google zero-click option where you are answering the questions related to you directly without people having to go to your website. If you have that content specificity value, that you are the authority on those pieces of content, that is the ultimate value proposition of being able to
well, and that works really effectively with voice. So if you want to hedge your bets, investing in content where you answer the questions that the people who are most likely to come stay with you are asking, that's a great, it's just a great search strategy, regardless of input or device. But this is the thing that makes me laugh is I feel like since the industry has finally figured out that they were asleep at the wheel when travel started being sold on the internet and they were all denying it. Now they've gone this complete opposite direction where they're all in. They're all in on everything. Without thought, like, why on earth would you put Amazon, Facebook, or Google in your room? The only last haven you have of where you 100% own the interaction with your guest, why would you bring one of these companies into that experience? It's TripAdvisor all over again. It maddened me when people jumped on this TripAdvisor bandwagon and were sending people to TripAdvisor in their post stay and things like that. Why on earth would you introduce to your consumer another business that wants to own the relationship with your consumer so they can sell it back to you? It's beyond me.
So wait, what you're suggesting is you should consider the business model of your partners? Really? Yeah. Another novel idea that I don't know. I don't know where you come up with these crazy things.
Partners being the key word there.
Yeah.
Well, partners in the way that
come into my parlor said the spider to the fly.
The big bad wolf, was just didn't want Red Riding Hood to feel bad about losing her grandma, so he was just partnering.
Exactly.
To ease her into the realization.
Yeah. So Steph, with you deal heavily with brands, obviously, and are you seeing any change in mood or opinion about upcoming seasons and so forth? Are they still relying on the fact that brand is going to save the day for those who are branded, or are they beginning to think, what else should I plan for kind of mentality? Is there any changes that are happening from your dialogues?
Hilton is definitely still touting their Anna Kendrick campaign successes, and they're rolling out more campaign initiatives as it relates to that specific marketing push. But they were also the ones that admittedly saw some changes as relates to slowing down of the economy as it relates to Q4. So a lot of their communication, I feel like, is it's different per brand, I would say. Some of them do a better job of communicating out to the owners and out to the hotels. Some of them do it in a this is what it's going to be and take it format. And I think, especially from a technology standpoint, as we talk about, the voice devices, they still have a long ways to go, even as it relates to finally Hilton and IHG are rolling out, solutions that can combat the streaming Netflix and things like that. And where is the data housed as it relates to streaming versus Marriott's version of putting your information onto the TV. So, you would think something like that would have been implemented long ago, but it's still they're also slow moving ships.
I noticed that from friends that I have in the industry with agencies that work specifically with the brands, that for Marriott in particular, they did a pretty seismic shift of internalization for their digital program this upcoming year. They've declined a lot of contract relationships with these agencies and in large scale, not just like we're kind of taking some stuff in house. They've really cut back and said, we're taking 3/4 of what we gave you before and we're bringing that in house. Is that something that Hilton's always tried to keep it in house. They've never really been one to go outside that much. But Marriott's brought it in. Are you seeing any others where they're realizing that the value proposition is for them to monetize it internally, or is this just something Marriott has finally gotten to the scale that they're able to do that?
Yeah, they certainly, when they rolled out, every year their digital program is shifted and changed, and they definitely for a while had trouble, keeping up with the fluctuations in demand in house. And, as with any agency that sees large growth, and I'll call it an agency, they, had opportunities in terms of consistency of delivery. And there were rumblings that was going to become mandated, and they did mandate it in certain realms. Like if you're a new owner, and you've never, depending on the size of your hotel company or you're building your first Marriott, there were some requirements as related to their, for lack of a better word, field marketing program. But as far as I know, it's not they didn't mandate it as 100% required, as some of the rumblings might have said. So, and Hilton obviously just changed their program mid-year, which was really strange as of July in terms of what that looked like, and what that could probably be a whole segment in and of itself in terms of what they've done to change. And the expense obviously comes to the hotel and at an owner's standpoint. And but it's interesting that the person that's, I want to say the person that's running Marriott's team was the one that started the Hilton system. So it's kind of interesting that there's some similarities there.
Cross-fertilization there. So do you have an idea of how much costs are going up for owners, like percentage-wise with these changes or anything? Or
for the Hilton program?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a pretty extensive blog post about it, but it was about $2,000 per year per hotel.
Yeah. Okay.
And you don't really have any say-so. It's on auto opt-in. This is it. This is what it's going to be. So.
Well, and my stats are now showing year to date. RevPAR is up 0.6% year over year. And that is not a big number. ADR is now tracking just below 1% growth year over year, year to date, and occupancy is down about almost 0.4%. So yeah, adding cost to the owners with no RevPAR increase is going to start margin challenges. Further,
yeah,
I think it was last
but not for next quarter. It won't, or the quarter after that. Chances are, by the time the owners do something about it, the market will be back on the upswing, and Hilton gets to ride through without having to give Wall Street too much bad news.
Well, we talked about that in last week's show. Actually, we talked about the fact that Hilton was.
Can we talk about Wall Street bad news? The top story. Can we please talk about Wall Street? Because we had some really, really bad news for the OTAs.
Okay, all right.
Well, wait, but wait. Like,
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Let's finish. I mean, because we'll definitely get there. Because
okay.
But let's finish talking this through, because I mean, if you really talk about what the brands are doing, it's more of what I've been warning of since they stopped being hoteliers, which is they're positioning themselves to weather the pullback. And
absolutely,
it's not going to be at the loss of their investors. It's going to be on the backs of their franchise. And guess what? You're in a contract. The cost to change is astronomical. To breach your contract is going to cost you money and take you time. And Hilton and Marriott are probably betting on the fact that by the time people get to that level, we'll be back on an upswing, and then they'll, deal with it then.
Well, I mean, and this is where we're in contrast. I mean, with you and I, you help brands try to achieve their goal relationship with their brand. You try to amplify any opportunity for them to succeed. And from my perspective, I'm the person that's just past the chain that the dog is on, because because they're limited to what their offerings and what their service profiles allow them to do. Their number of keywords that they're able to augment for themselves, the service profiles that they're able to put on what channels for it, the limitations of content types, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of literally, as long as you know how long the chain is, no matter how mean the dog is, you can just stand that 1 foot farther away. And so
this comes back to a famous saying that Lauren keeps getting told throughout his career, which is he is following the letter of the agreement, not the intent.
Not the intent.
Not the spirit. Not the spirit.
Not the spirit of it. Yeah. So, in the market space, when it comes to fighting brands, it literally is being able to identify what it is that they've been qualified for, what they identify with, and knowing where that line is, and then just working around that and taking all the business that they should be getting for themselves for what they are, but they can't do it for themselves because they're limited by what they're allowed to do.
But in the same, when you talk about brands versus independents, I think, as Hilton has, put this mandatory thing in place as it relates to the advanced program, they've actually done, something right, that it's also harder to compete from. They're finally leveraging market specific hotels. So let's say, when you look at different destinations, pulling together, let's say, I don't know, there's, in Dallas, you pull together all the Dallas hotels specifically and do a big promo with the American Airlines Arena, something like that. So destination marketing campaigns and really trying to pull their resources at a market level, at a destination level. And I think that's finally one of the good things that they're trying to do, because before all this, umbrella branding didn't make it down into the destinations or markets. And I think from that standpoint, no individual hotel would probably ever have the funds to, do a big promo with, specific, sports demand generators and things like that within a market. So, I mean, I feel like some things,
unless they were an active hotel in their local DMO, and their local DMO does those same exact things. Yeah. I mean, listen, I agree with you. What they're doing is using their scale correctly for the good of the markets. I'm not anti-brand. What I have a hard time with is the alignment's no longer there. These brands are franchise systems now, and franchise systems, only one entity makes real money, and it's not right. I mean, it's so unless that changes, I'm going to be saying from now forward, you have to take with a grain of salt the angle that Hilton and Marriott take on these things, because they're no longer aligned. They're no longer hoteliers. They are brands that franchise themselves. They don't own any properties. They manage, because management's lucrative. But you have to look at these things and understand that they have a new series of metrics that they answer to, and because they're public. So again, this is not saying that the people are evil. It's the system they're in. They're public companies that have to answer to earnings and all of that stuff. And they detach themselves from the hospitality portion of it. I've got my cat support now. It's like Monday Night Football.
This is our main equity analyst that we use on the show.
Our mascot.
Yeah.
No, he's the equity. He is an equity analyst.
So I mean, because
we put a couple bowls of food. If he goes to the left or right, that's where we put
the destination level marketing actually makes the franchisor less dependent on a single property, because they're really promoting the destination and the breadth of their presence in the destination across all their brands. So it still serves Hilton more than it serves the property.
I agree. It definitely is self-serving to a degree, but you can at least go for the loyalists and say, when you come to Dallas, stay with a Hilton product is the mentality. So at least your share.
And here are the 14 new Hilton brands that we're introducing for you. Dallas will have 27 of them to be added to our other 96.
Probably
I think part of the successful draw and I agree, Hilton is smart by saying, let's leverage our notoriety, our value proposition of branding, and try to funnel that and focus that towards destinations. And they are getting better at getting more specific into their campaign strategies rather than blunt instrument. Here we are, what we are. Right. They're chasing down and focusing on certain things. To that end, I still say, what I need is fair share for any client that I'm competing against a brand with. I want my fair share and beyond. I want to steal more than what I should actually get.
Acquire.
Acquire, different word.
Yeah.
From them, no. But so even the pattern performance, the benefit that the brands are still being able to provide is the ignorance that the market they're competing against. There's so many in their market that they're competing with that don't understand all of the fine tuning that can go on now in marketing. The nuances that I only have to look at what Hilton's doing for their targeting, and like a remora on the bottom of a shark, just join on and chase it down and take what I want from it, knowing that they've done the research. Why reinvent the wheel?
Parasitic marketing?
Parasitic marketing. I'm going to.
There we go.
Welcome to Parasitic Marketing. We'll get your fair share and more. But
we will eventually kill off the host. We're so effective.
Oh, that never happens.
The worst kind of parasite.
But you see what they're doing. You can research what Hilton's targeting, and just like airlines, I do that with airlines all the time. They're why reinvent the wheel? They're brilliant people in those organizations. They know where their business is from, how they get it, why they conserve it. They can actually generate their own demand because they own both ends of the equation. So why go over and try to second guess? Just follow the pattern and say, how can I tailor what they're doing and what they're targeting to what I want and need, and how targeted to my, to my properties. Yep. And so, yes, Hilton's smart about what they're doing. And yes, it's great that they're competing with most people that are like, oh, flip a switch. I'm doing marketing and I'm happy with it. 85% of me says I'm happy with my website conversion. All works out good. Anyways, so what other happiness do you want to hit the main topic, Mr. Robert?
Robert wanted to move on this conversation, so why don't we let Robert?
I have visual aids. So Expedia came out and has a little bit of an issue on their third quarter earnings call. They missed their earnings per share by about 11%, and their share price did that. Yeah, which is not so good. So if you can't really see, it went from about just under 140 to right now it's at just over 100. It seems that 100 level psychologically is kind of holding people in there. So
it actually makes buying at 100 an awfully wise thing when you can watch and witness a floor. And the floors happen for many different reasons. You can dig in, but it's a great time to buy Expedia because that is the artificial floor that currently the market is seeing. That's where the short sellers had buys set. That's where the big funds had buys set. So it's unlikely that it will move much below that floor. It will bounce off that floor a couple of times over the next few weeks before maintaining some form of recovery from it.
Yeah, those were all the bear scenarios.
So you heard it now.
Obviously,
Ed says buy Expedia.
Ed says buy. Ed says buy. By the way,
So that's Expedia down. They missed earnings by 11%. So does that same logic apply to TripAdvisor, who oh, they missed their earnings by 20%. Now, it doesn't look as bad because of the scaling of the graph, but they went from about $40 a share to about 32, right? So they lost another.
I'll take a contrarian position here. Never buy TripAdvisor. That is a company that has completely lost their way.
Dead man walking.
They do not know who they're serving.
Actually, no. I'll rescind one thing. If they do go to bed with Trip.com, they will get acquired up. And they will. And so to buy now for the stock to jump while they go through acquisition might be not a bad move.
Purely for Trip.com.
It's not a big margin, but it's there.
If they can have, if Trip.com, they've changed their name, right? So GoGoBot, originally owned, too bad Tim isn't here, originally owned by Ascendant Travel Distribution Services, the Trip.com URL. It was sold to GoGoBot, right? For not, I mean, I think it was probably $1 million or something. Who knows what they paid, but they did buy the name. That's fine. Ctrip acquires GoGoBot. Ctrip is now becoming Trip globally. Oh, the ticker for TripAdvisor is Trip. So just purely on that, there you go. These things line up. So they have a joint venture. They have a joint venture in China, and now. I mean, you can start looking at some interesting dimensions. If TripAdvisor, if they did merge with Trip, or now Ctrip, now Trip, if they do that, that makes a lot of sense because all of a sudden they can start using Skyscanner stuff and go, oh, look we can do air. We got some leading indicators of where people want to travel to, and they can start doing some interesting.
I think that's already happening. I think that's
and they can, but then they can have TripAdvisor go back to what it was good at, which was kind of the reviews and being kind of that, that product. I don't
know, man. I don't know if they're going to be able to recover from the consumer damage that they've caused.
Well, in China, they don't have the bad rep. If they're going to get in China's market, they don't have the bad rep.
No, that's true.
They could actually walk in a little bit more pristine, less mud. Mm-hmm. And get the build back again for it, and then once they get lost into the mix of Trip.com, then they come back to market. People won't remember what they were or how they were. They come as a entity with everything else. It might be the way they go high. And what do you think about
still have a lot of traffic?
Yeah, what do you think about Accor going with Alibaba? Do you think that? I mean, is that just finding the safest port in harbor to get into the top market?
It makes a ton of sense. I mean, actually, a lot of commonalities in like corporate culture and how they think about the world, and it just makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you guys noticed?
You aren't going to pop into China doing it yourself, so you might as well go with the biggest guys.
Is on a big expansion. I missed that they had actually bought SBE.
Yeah.
And I
missed
they got
Morgans and all
that they bought 21C Museum hotels.
Oh, yeah.
And I missed that they've been making a concerted effort in bringing Novotel to the United States, but at the level of a Sofitel. Yeah. So the Novotel brand in the United States will be a higher-end brand than it is in Europe.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Comparable to Canada sides, or totally just?
Are you familiar with Novotel versus Sofitel in the Europe?
Yeah.
So and Novotel here will be of the level that Sofitel is in Europe.
Huh. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Good. Actually, Accor has more brands than Marriott. I think they're at 40 something. So they're actually a larger brand portfolio.
How is that possible? They're like not really big in the United States. I thought you had to be big in the United States in order to be successful in travel. I mean, isn't that what Expedia said?
I had no idea there were other countries outside of the United States until just recently.
Evidently, neither did
you watch the late night shows when they interview people on the streets. Nobody does either.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's true.
The country of Paris, for instance,
can't see over the wall.
It's like what's outside of this? I don't know. Nothing's outside of this.
There's one more little add on this. So then you had Booking.com, who their chart looks like this, which when Expedia reported their downfall, boom, Booking got hit, not as bad, but pretty severe hit. But then they reported their earnings and they beat the expectations by over 2%,
which
right?
makes
That's
them
good.
it makes them an even better buy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, whoops, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
you're going dark.
I think
there.
you just want to show off your Pixel 4.
That was
I
the
think you just
little,
want to show off
that
your
was
Pixel 4.
So
what?
this was
no, look at the
early.
little blip up, and now it's account. Now it's come back.
So in the
down.
early years of Facebook being public, something that was something I made a lot of money off of was Google always announced about a week before Facebook. And in their announcements, they would announce their earnings on mobile ad revenue. And that meant if they had growth, that meant Facebook had a ton of growth because Facebook was still catching up. So I would watch Google earnings. And based on Google earnings, I would then buy options on Facebook to ride the pop that comes from knowing that they're going to have an upside earnings. And my money manager's like, you've done this like 3 or 4 times now, and it's every time it's worked.
SEC keeps calling us.
He's like, what are you doing? And I said, there's only 2 companies that make up mobile ad revenue. It's Google and Facebook. And so if Google's overall mobile ad revenue grew, it wasn't because they took it from Facebook. It's because mobile ad revenue grew. Facebook's going to have their percentage of that as well, and that will make them beat. And that worked great, and then they flopped. So now Facebook reports before Google.
Did you still come out above, though? Are you still?
Oh, a ton. Facebook was one of those investments where, so when I was becoming, a working adult who could put away money, most of the people who were my bosses at that time would continue telling me how much they regret selling Google at name the number. And along the way, it was like, I had Google at $70 and I regret selling it at $110. I regret selling it at $188.
Well, it opened at 400, I think. So, yeah.
No, I know, but but when Facebook went IPO, I waited till it dropped to about $20 per share, and I put a ton of money into it and have ridden it since. And then throughout that, have ridden periods of ups and downs based on the news. So I've made a lot.
Facebook's been good.
Yeah, Facebook's been good. It's a very predictable company. Well, you know what it is? It's a very predictable company. And part of the reason it's very predictable is Wall Street hates them. So they don't get artificially, positive push and hype and stuff. So you actually can easily follow that company and understand. So like when Cambridge Analytica and all that came out and all the stuff since that's come out, Facebook's artificial floor is $130 a share. So I was telling everyone that would listen, hey, put a buy-in at 129 to 131 a share. Do not spend over 131. I have 2 different people that put $15,000, $20,000 into that, and less than a month later, it was popped up into the 179 to 182 a share, and has bounced between 179 and 190 something a share since. It's just a super easy to predict company.
Are you collecting your referral fees and your kickback from that?
I should.
Actually, that's how Ed Funds flip too. Is he basically just plays them, and it kind of the product plan has to shift depending on exactly what his bets are. But
yeah.
So it's either you do the market or you go to Vegas. Yeah. So that's it.
One or the other.
Yeah. So.
In both,
and he doesn't have to travel. He doesn't have to travel anymore to go to Vegas to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he could.
My clothes don't get as smoky smelling.
Exactly. So, but anyway, the thing though, if you looked at booking.com and you look at it, here's a time to buy. Well, yeah, you did it. They had the earnings that went up, but now it's dropped back down. So all of this, maybe we should make the disclaimer, Lauren. We do not provide investment advice here. We are, not
right. The opinions are solely those represented today. Yeah, right.
The opinions are just opinions. Based on,
they're just opinions.
Exactly.
Based not at all in data or fact.
Yeah.
We did say it was a hospitality marketing show. So.
Yes. Speaking of which, I'm actually heading to New York tomorrow. I'm speaking at the ALHOA HX conference in New York.
Ooh.
On cybersecurity. Who'd have thunk me?
Oh, they don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
I didn't realize you were proficient in cybersecurity.
Well,
he's more proficient than the whole audience, so that's good.
All right, fair enough.
Actually, no. To be fair, I'm moderating a panel, so my contribution. I'm going to take the Tim Peter method, which is talk less, nod more. But
you need to ask questions though too, Lauren. You need to ask good questions.
I have some great questions. Actually, I solicited questions and have been perusing and making sure that my game is on when it comes to this. And it is fascinating.
Is this a panel of security experts?
Yeah.
All right. I just so badly want you to do something for me.
What
do you have any USB drives sitting around?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was going to bring
them to them as gifts.
Yeah.
And on it, just have a Word doc that says, I can't believe you opened this.
Yeah, I know. I could do that.
Yeah, exactly.
For them, actually, I got to say, in comparison, I mean, we do this show in support of HSMAI and so forth, and we try to make this content relevancy and so forth. And AHO is not necessarily a competitor to HSMAI, but their goals and their mission is definitely different. Their organization of their conferences are impressive. How they handle the coordination of how you get there and your, the
versus who, Lauren?
Versus HSMAI. The content points of it are pretty strong too. They have some really great sessions. There's a ADA compliance session that I'm looking forward to attending because they have a great group of people that are going to be talking about the specifics associated with the ADA compliance issues that are out there today. I have the cybersecurity one. There's a lot of really solid content that is actionable content compared to display and exposure content. And I say that from the fact that, sometimes we get caught in these ruts and we say the same thing over and over at conferences, hey, revenue management and marketing should work together. Yeah, we've been saying that for about 5 years now.
Hey, you should all be working towards level 1 PCI certification.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
Lauren,
15 years ago.
I really think those panelists, if you go up, how many panelists do you have? Like 3 or 4? 4? Okay. Get 4 USB drives, and just when you walk across the stage, just drop them in front of their chairs, and they will love it. They will absolutely love it.
Actually, Ed, I plan on bringing up your example.
Put them at ease.
I stole that example from the head of security for Elf on a Shelf, who spoke at an event, their head of cybersecurity, because one of the challenges they have is they're actually a really small organization, but an incredibly large brand. And so they have to take a very sophisticated approach to cybersecurity because they don't have the resources that a brand their size normally has. And he was speaking to a room full of vendors. And I remember he went and tried to find security issues with every single vendor. And so he was like, all right, who wants to raise their hand and see what I found on the security issues that you have? And, reluctantly, you had some vendors raise their hand and,
So you can get called out and embarrassed, basically?
Yeah. But you'd also get told where the massive flaws are in your security. So a couple of people, it was bad. Like, it was really bad to the point where I even technically understood that they basically had all their windows and doors open with a welcome sign pointing. And and then there were a few like Flip2 that we take security very seriously, and that comes from taking my previous company through PCI certification. That opens your eyes on really every detail you need to think through. That you'd raise your hand and you'd be like, "Oh, I didn't find anything." It's like, yes. Look at the other vendors and be like, "I don't even handle credit cards. You do."
Stand up and give them that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But the biggest thing he said, which is true, and you do learn this if you actually take the effort to go through level 1 PCI certification, is the digital is the easiest stuff to lock down. It's your employees and training your employees to not be gullible. And so one of the things they would do to test their employees is he would just go in the parking lot and drop USB drives.
Absolutely.
And the USB drive would lock the computer and notify him when it happened. And that's how he was catching employees, because it's actually an incredibly common thing. Someone sees a USB drive and they think to themselves, sweet, I got a USB drive now.
Right.
Or
I wonder what's on it.
I'm going to open it and look to see if I can identify whose USB drive this is so I can get it back to them.
Exactly.
That's how most hacks happen, is through that weakest link. Employee, untrained, not thoughtful. Same thing with phishing emails. Like they're looking at LinkedIn to see the hierarchy of a company, and then they'll send an email masked as a senior manager to a junior manager, with a doc attached or a link or something like that. And that is actually how these hacks are, really happening. Like that's how the Target hack happened. Most of these hacks that you're seeing over in Australia, they're getting hit really hard with ransomware hacks, and most of them are employees clicking on an email, and by the way, lesson on ransomware. There's a way to ensure that you don't get completely destroyed by it. It's offsite separated storage that is not connected to the internet of copies of your systems. Because if you're running in a network where your copy is sitting on a computer inside the same network as your primary environment, ransomware will get it.
Lost. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Actually, it's funny you bring that up, because after going through the research in preparation for this, because I really wanted to be as knowledgeable about moderating the panel as possible,
Lawrence first Google, what is internet security?
What is internet security? I've made it where in my own organization that all of the data that we have for clients, because we use the G Suite, is in a read-only file. And that if any of my team has to use data for implementing it for custom audience creation or whatever is like that, then they have to send me the request to get to it, to unlock it for them to load to the platform, and then it gets locked back down again afterwards. Mm-hmm. So that if anything happened to all of this, if they fried the computers and the externals and so forth, then okay, nothing's lost from a client perspective. Yeah, it's going to hurt me. It's going to kill my localization. But I mean, from a client exposure point of view, it's not accessible for them to get pulled from.
But again, with all of this, the huge problem is the interconnection of these systems, right? The hack, my favorite hack is MGM Resorts got hacked into their loyalty, I believe their high roller data. I think it was either their loyalty or their high roller database, one of the two, because they aren't really talking about exactly what happened, but it came in through their fish tank.
Right.
The fish tank's thermostat was hooked up. It was on the network. They found an exploit. So all this IoT stuff where everybody's going, oh, it'll be great because we've got the integration with this. And when they walk into the room, it'll be personalized because we know at 5 o'clock at night, the Nest stuff tells us that they want to be at 70 degrees. It's that whole convenience security, trade-off.
Well, even some simplistic things where you keep an external drive and you put a hard backup at a pre-designated time and then disconnect it. That's what I mean. That was something simple that I learned, that I have a hard drive that I do a backup once a week on, and then I unplug it, so that should I get fried, at least I'm only 7 days back. Right. In that sense. So
but again, with those USBs, people take them home on their home equipment. God knows what happens there. You've got keyboard loggers or something like that, right? And all of a sudden they log into the network. It goes, we got the password and the username. Perfect. I mean,
my favorite thing we came up with at the last company that we do at this company, which I mean, with Flip2, the most sensitive information we have is email address. So I mean, it doesn't need to be as secured as EasyYield was. But one of the things we did to make sure that every employee was serious about locking down their workstation before getting up was we instituted a rule that if someone walks away from their workstation and leaves it logged in, you are 100% allowed to mess with them and encouraged. And we actually encouraged, because at EasyYield we had a no social media policy on the work computers. So you were encouraged, because no employee listened to it, to actually log into their social media, but be smart about it. Don't post on their behalf. Go show interest in things.
Yeah.
Stuff that may take weeks for them to actually understand.
Some of the some of the cringeworthy things when I deal with clients, and this goes back to old school, just new technology. Salespeople, the biggest value proposition that they had was their Rolodex back in the day. You know, their contacts, who they knew, how they knew them, and what have you. That's turned into lists now on computers. Well, the bad, sad part of this is that the practice of hijacking lists from your employer still exists. And so when I'm talking to a client and I'm going to talk to the sales team and we're going to put together something, custom audience or whatever, you know, creation of some campaign, CRM campaign or whatever. Oh, I have my list from before. What do you mean list from before? Oh, I keep my list from, you know, when I was at such and such. I'm sitting there going, all right, guys, first off, you can't even use that. Okay. It's called spam. Second, you should never, as you send on behalf of your company, any freaking email of any quantity size from you.
Warren, you use the term spam. I think some of these guys are looking at those lists because it has all of the meeting planners, their entire meeting, the patterns, the contact.
Yes,
names,
what you meant to say
everything.
was corporate espionage.
That is not spam.
But they're proud of it. They're like, I got this list.
Like filet mignon. This is Kobe beef. Yes, it is not spam. So, this is how they got the 25% increase for moving that new, taking that new job at the new hotel that's opening. Yeah,
exactly. This was their
relationships. I'm bringing all my relationships is normally how it's phrased.
My relationships.
Yes, that's what it is. But
yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Robert, what else did we not miss on your list?
What about the Ruh-Roh? It's getting close to 1:00. Yeah. It's 1:00 somewhere.
It certainly is. We could take that approach for the entire show. We're done. Hey, we're 30 minutes in. I think it's new. When we start, it's Newfoundland or someplace. It's 30 minutes off. The Ruh-Roh. There were a few further up the list that could have been Ruh-Rohs themselves, but CNN had a little thing on unwanted tourist types and over tourism, which these destinations, again, kind of similar. It kind of ties into the Airbnb thing of what happens when you start destroying based on its success and popularity. So you really are, places like Venice are having problems, and a wide variety of them. Barcelona, all over Europe. But you've now got these situations where Bali is getting rid of bagpackers, right? Because what's one of the big things is, hey, I'm going to go be a blogger and I'm going to go out and travel the world, and then I'll beg on the streets to try to get enough money to go to the next destination.
Amazing.
Right? Not a great lifestyle.
It's like, my God.
I have to wonder that. I feel like it gives backpackers a bad name. I can't imagine that the majority of the backpacking population turns into beggars. I feel like it's very, not
well,
fair.
That's why you call them bagpackers. Bagpackers.
Yeah. But Qatar's doing the same thing, or Qatar, however you pronounce it.
It was Qatar, so I guess it's probably not, because I thought that. So
yeah.
Do you think most city planners, though, have a branding expert on staff that defines who they want to target? I feel like they know in their head probably who they want and don't want. Just like hoteliers will tell you, I don't want whatever hot wire guests in my hotel or something like that. But in terms of being strategic about their branding, do you feel like most city planners have that level of insight?
Not until the problem arises.
Quite honestly, here's the thing.
They might think about it, right?
Over tourism is a tax issue.
Mm-hmm.
They're not maximizing the yield of the opportunity, because one of the ways you can slow down over tourism is to raise the taxes on visitors coming into the area. And one of the ways to get locals to be less upset about tourists being in their location is to help them get benefits.
The hell out of them.
Yeah. Right. So, like living in Florida, one of the nice things about Florida is taxes aren't as high as other areas, because that tourism tax does generate quite a bit of infrastructure money. and we have world-class infrastructure and like a middle of the United States type cost of living from a tax perspective, and that's because it's all tourists paying it. So I look at it and I think of like one of the destinations I think that got ruined by incorrect tourism planning is Bar Harbor, Maine. Have any of you been to Bar Harbor, Maine?
Oh yeah,
it looks like Freeport.
On a cruise, no less.
Yeah. What they did with cruisers ruined what Bar Harbor, Maine was before the cruise industry came there. And part of that was they didn't think it through. They didn't tax it right. There's a lot of things they haven't done correctly. And so now Bar Harbor is a port that has kind of the same crap every other cruise port ends up having, and has lost a lot of its history, a lot of its uniqueness and charm, because the government didn't think it through and didn't think through preserving what actually made Bar Harbor really cool. And it's hard to do after the fact, and so that's one that I don't think over tourism did it. It's just the wrong type of tourism.
I think that's what I was mentioning. One of the cities, like the day tripper phenomenon, if the city idea of making money is through lodging taxes, and people are coming from the day and not staying, then, as it relates to cruise, who's making the money and where does that tax revenue come from?
Any of you been to the Bahamas lately? Even if you go to an ATM, there's VAT on the ATM fee. So, I mean, there are ways, like, so day trippers, things like that, you make the thing that's drawing them in have some type of fee associated to a level that it regulates the demand.
And that's what Genesis is doing. They're wiping out day trippers. Other groups are putting in $8 taxes for cruise passengers and things like that. But at the same time, you need to limit the cruise. And that's a tough decision for some of these places. No, we have too many cruise ships, because you're kind of like, oh wait, but that's more tax revenue and sales and things like that.
Oh yeah, right. But that's the thing. If you're making enough tax money on it and demand remains, well, just make sure that tax money is going to the people that it's upsetting. And eventually it will normalize. It's revenue managing the situation just at a different level.
No. The tax benefits, right, Ed, they go to your campaign.
Right. Sorry. I'm not a
goes.
politician. I forget what they're supposed to do.
It's not how it works.
I always think they're supposed to serve the people. And gosh, I keep getting it wrong.
Well, they're people. Well, I don't know. And
no, like the average
corporations
people,
are people, right? Because it's free speech. So,
are they people? And then if you're one of those countries that has like awesome, like vicious laws, like the bagpacker thing is simple. There's death penalty. Done.
There you go.
No more bagpackers.
But it's kind of interesting in the fact that we are kind of pulling at two ends of the same thing. We know that the people at the age that they are now, and I'm not going to call them millennials because it's an overused term, as we say, but they have
kids
less money.
Today. Can we just say kids today?
Kids
today.
Yeah. Have less money at their age than the baby boomers did at the same time, and they are more experience driven than baby boomers were at that time. So these people are going out, as they say in the article, I want to write a blog and travel the world, and those backpackers turn into begpackers, whatever the new coin is, and they're still trying to experience these things, and they don't have the money to actually buy and stay in places. I remember when I was in Barcelona, we were walking down and the prices were going up as we're getting closer to the water, and we're like confused. We're going to buy lunch, and 1 minute it's €5 and the next minute it's €20. It's because we went into the cruise zone range, where there was a limit that people that got off the cruise boat could come from the boat. There was a defined line that this is as far as they could get for the time they were in the harbor, and then they had to go back to the boat. So all the prices below that towards the water were way elevated because they could afford those things. Now in Key West, which has long been destroyed because of cruise boats, the whole island is available. So all those cute little shops of cute little things are nothing more than tourist junk now. You go down there and it's nothing but T-shirts and things that you get off the boat, you grab something and off you go. And and all the bars and everything else like this. And all of the locals down there, they appreciate business, but they do not appreciate the fact that they can't afford to live there anymore. Most of the people that work in the Keys are bussed from Florida City. because they can't afford to live anywhere along the Keys anymore. There is no place to really truly live.
Well, that and the homeowner's insurance also precludes most people from being able to afford to live.
Whenever you have a law that says no more than 15 people can be in one bedroom, there's a problem.
Although, if that was going to exist somewhere, the Keys kind of seems like the place that would need to be there pretty early.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things. But yeah,
these are huge challenges for these destinations, though. I mean, you look at Aspen. Aspen still has done very well at maintaining a really cool down. They don't have McDonald's on the corner and things like that. They've really done a great job. But again,
it's proper taxation. The government takes an active role in balancing, and the better job they do, like in Aspen. Think about how Aspen's been a top, sought after destination for a long time, and they've held pretty well to keeping the most attractive type of traveler, the ones who have the most money, as the only ones there. And a lot of that has to do with what they'll approve from business licensing perspective, and zoning and things like that, and taxation.
Yep. Except now they've got a huge problem because it's such a great place. They now have 50 billionaires who have houses there.
How's that a problem? Again,
the employees. But the employees cannot afford to live there. Right? Just flat out. You have to commute now. People are commuting an hour or 2 hours, things like that, which is a challenge, right?
Well,
and so then what do you do for affordable housing in a community like that? Is that everybody's like, yeah, we really need it, but not in my backyard. NIMBY rules, right? Which is a real problem.
I think the baseline index is when your firemen and policemen cannot afford to live in the very city that they service, you got a problem. Naples is
that's a lot of cities in the United States.
Yeah.
It is.
Naples is like that too. It's most of the people that are in the municipal services can't live in the very city of Naples. They have to live up here in Fort Myers, Cape Coral, along the roads, Golden Gate, whatever, because they can't live near Naples. It's just affordably out of it. From a hospitality perspective, this does solicit the opportunity of secondary or non-discoverable destinations to truly make their mark, though. There's a lot of other
they can have the same problem.
Huh?
So that
they
can
have the same problem. No,
can destroy
that problem. That problem looks
take
great.
advantage of
Let's
somebody
make
else's
it to where
business.
no one can live anywhere here.
No. I'm talking about from a tourism perspective, building businesses in other locations that are not as well known. Where Venice is Venice, but there are so many other cool Italian.
That's called gentrification, Lauren.
Okay, I'm good with it.
Until you're priced out of Fort Myers.
Until you're priced out of Fort Myers. No, the idea
then you have to live in Northport.
Ooh, okay, maybe I'm on the wrong path here. All right. Yeah. Anyway, no, the idea from a hospitality perspective that if you're in an area that isn't in the main destination value proposition, like a Venice or an Astor, so there are other opportunities. There's other things of discoverability, and that's the cool part about the marketing side of things. You now have opportunity and voice, where before, if you weren't in the right newspaper or TV station show, you never would have been discovered. But now you have a chance to show up that, you're bigger. You may not be the biggest ball of twine, but you got a nice ball of twine.
But you've got the most shark teeth of any beach.
There you go. Venice. There.
Venice.
Or Nokomis, right next door to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, and you can do it. I think one of the great examples is what Dolly Parton did for Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, right? I mean, she made a lot of money. I mean, she was trying to figure out, how do I put money back into, her local community, which is basically just a total backwater, I think, former coal mining, whatever, just a devastated nothing going on there. And she built a little theme park, and then didn't just make it be like a Disney thing or something that's like super cool. It was funding local people. And now you did get a ton of strip malls and all sorts of chain restaurants and things like that, but it rejuvenated that town. And that's now a good regional destination.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, you do need economy. You can't crap on having strip malls and things like that. That employs people. Those people also are buying homes.
It's
and
booming.
Yeah, I mean,
people are affording housing. They have got a great lifestyle, and the park itself. No, it didn't have super jumbo coasters and things like that, but it was a pretty well run regional theme park, and it had country music.
I like how you're talking about it like no one knows what Dollywood is.
I think a lot of people don't. I don't think they have the.
I'm willing to bet you everyone who watches this show, who works in the travel industry, knows what Dollywood is.
And everyone that lives on the East Coast, at least.
I think, Southeast stronger. I would say once you get past the Mississippi, I don't think people know that much about it. I really don't. It's a regional.
Past the Mississippi, you mean California?
Yeah, exactly.
Near the country of Paris.
Oh, right. Because I mean, it goes like Mississippi, Las Vegas, California, Chicago, right? Like that's all there is.
I don't know how many people are going from Seattle. I don't know. In Seattle, I don't think people would have.
But I don't think it was built to be that.
And that's what I'm saying.
Built
to
be Disney. I mean, and honestly, I don't think Disney would be Disney if it didn't have its multiple locations. I think a single location Disney would be a regional play at best. But a East Coast, West Coast, China, Euro.
Well, I don't know, Disneyland even before, because I can remember pre-Epcot, right? It was a big deal. and Epcot, the whole Epcot.
And where did you live at the time?
Seattle.
Right, on the same coast. That's what I'm saying.
I know.
If they didn't have Orlando and West Coast, I don't think it'd be as big of a deal.
That was a huge multiplier for plus the size of the park and everything.
Plus the people who fall in love with it and then want to go to the other park. And
no, that was a good strategy. But still, Disneyland itself was still a huge international draw. It wasn't accessible to a big chunk of the market, right? Yeah. So they certainly improved the accessibility.
Hey, I still remember an e-ticket. Remember e-tickets?
Oh yeah, Matterhorn. Matterhorn was an e-ticket. You had your little tickets and D tickets, which was a real problem because if you bought the wrong ticket, and Disney made a fortune on it, going, I got a leftover e-ticket. Oh, we got to go get in line or no, we're leaving, and there you go.
All right. Was there any untapped article that we did not hit that we wanted to make sure we covered today?
It's amazing. We covered a lot.
We did.
We really did. Stephanie, thank you.
You were a great influence on us. We were off on the rails early on, but you kept us on track for most of it. So thank you very much.
Normally, Lauren sights a squirrel and he gets off the leash and we go chasing after him.
I mean, you saw us fighting it in this show. Robert's like, we're in the middle and the conversation's getting good. And he's like, but I want to talk about Expedia.
Well, I was just trying to segue because you had talked about
but that was okay.
I got to figure which 10-minute segment I'm going to pull out of this and put on Instagram TV.
I think this one right now.
Yeah,
rolling down.
I think if I get over 100 people following the Instagram, because I didn't put it on my personal one, because as you know, there is a Lauren Gray on Instagram that is insanely more popular than me, and we've faced some issues.
I personally can't tell them apart. I don't know.
So I'm going to say, no, I'm going to put this on Hospitality Digital Marketing's Instagram account so we can build an audience for it. But I think I need over 100 on it before I can get more than 10-minute loads, up to an hour after that, I think.
Okay, time to go to Fiverr, Lauren.
Yeah, it's time to start jacking up those fake names. Anyway, so Stephanie, since it has been a pleasure to have you with us and hopefully many more to come, if people want to know more about you and what it is that you do, where is it they can find you?
So Stephanie Sparks Smith. I put my middle name in there since Smith is, such a unique name. Cogwheelmarketing.com is my website. I have a blog there, and you can find me on LinkedIn. Those are my primary channels.
Excellent. Mr. Robert Cole, if they want to know more about you and your infamous Rock Cheetah.
Robert K. Cole on all social media or rockcheetah.com.
And Mr. Ed, for anything more about you and Flip2, the amazing Flip2 organization.
Yes, well, you can go to flip.to to check us out directly. You can hear about us pretty much every Fuel podcast. Thank you, Stuart. Also find us on Tim Peters' blog. And then you can find me on social media, Edward St. Ange. And Lauren Gray, if people for some reason want to binge watch hours upon hours of our talking heads, where can they go to find that?
They can find all 221 previous episodes, including now 222 at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. And I think we finally hit the mark that you could watch us nonstop for almost 3 weeks now.
It's not going to be good enough until it's a solid month, Lauren.
I know. I'm working up to that month. I'm waiting for that where I could just say, you could binge watch us for a solid month. But now we're up to about 3 weeks now with the shows that last as long as they do. So,
and
with
then
that in mind,
we start cross-selling the whole mental health thing. And that's where we make the real money. So.
Well, no, then we start talking about that incarceration in hotels and torture and
that's right.
I'm a Clockwork Orange. Unfortunately, we ran out of time for Holly today. Sorry,
Holly. Sorry we didn't get to you, Holly.
Yeah, I know you're sitting in the green room waiting to join the show, but maybe next time. And mystery if it is, we might actually get Valen to join us next week, right?
Stop it.
Yes, I believe so. She said she may get scared. Yeah, may get scared off by it, but yeah, we'll see. She may recall. She hasn't been on the show for a while, and she may get her recollection back and go, "Oh no."
I mean, to be fair, she works for someone, so she does have to answer for the things she says.
That's true. Yeah.
Does change the scope of the conversation when she has to put her in sense. Yeah, but anyway.
No, wait a second. No, my schizophrenia though. I mean, I have serious debates with myself. We do recaps after the show, and there's a lot of debate.
Rob, we know that you lost to your argument to the inner voices long ago. Thank you, everyone that watched us. With this, will be simulcast again back on HSMAI's APAC and AU channels on Facebook as well. Until next Friday, 11:30 Eastern, for show 223, with hopefully Valen will be joining us. Thank you all for your time, and we'll see you all next week.